Hello, welcome back to Uncle Sal's Garage. On the last episode, we calculated our compression ratio and we set up our valvetrain geometry. On today's episode, we're assembling the long block. Let's get started.
Step 1. Installing the pistons and cylinders. I had anticipated filming a section of this in time-lapse, but then stopping periodically to explain what was going on. The thing is that I ran into a snag almost immediately, and just focused on fixing my issues. As you can see, I began in a very organized manner, reclocking and recleaning my pistons and rings. I got number 4 on okay. They tell you to start there because of the oil cooler and filter bosses being in the way, so that was all good. But then cylinder number 3 happened. Now most people building motors will mount their yoke on cylinders 1 and 2. But I want to break in the motor before installing it on the car, which necessitates using a starter ring mounted on the 1 and 2 side. So I needed to mount my yoke on the other side. This has the negative effect of blocking the installation of cylinder number 3. Remember, cylinder number 3 is the furthest back on the crank. And in that spot you've got 2 problems. 1, the fins get in the way, and 2, there's no room for you to get the wrist pin on with the yoke installed. So I installed cylinder number 4 okay, but failed at installing cylinder number 3 due to the fact that I couldn't get it on with the yoke mounted to the motor. So I took the motor off the stand, the yoke off the motor, installed cylinder number 3, put the yoke back on the motor and the motor back on the stand, and proceeded with the rest of the installation. Man, 1 and 2 were a relative breeze after that.
Alright, well here it is with the cylinders and the heads on the motor. I had that slight problem getting number 3 on because of both my yoke's interference with the fin as well as just not being able to clear the wrist pin. So as you saw, I had to take it off the stand and it was kind of annoying, but everything else went on great. I've got my Permatex on the bottom there with my shims. Make sure that those don't have any blow through, and then yeah, I just torqued the heads down on both sides and everything's looking good.
Step 2. Installing the heads, push rods, and valve train assembly.
Alright, well here's the culmination of all that measuring lift on the exhaust and on the intake and etc. etc. These are the closest match that I could find to the distance that I was looking for, and I tried cutting my own push rod and hammering the tip in there, and I wasn't comfortable with my chances of not bending the push rod as I was hammering it in. So I figured, let me go with the closest match from Manley here. It's a 10.7, 405, whatever the hell that means. So there you go. It's rocker time. As you recall, I had figured out the horizontal shim arrangement for my rockers and made sure that the valve stem adjuster was not exactly on center, but a little off center from my last video. So these are already ready to go. They're prepped. I wiped them down. I even installed the swivel foot retaining nut. So yeah, these are ready to go into the head here. So I'm going to do that now. So for all that grief, I figured I might as well make sure I'm achieving the same lift as I was achieving when I was doing my tests. So let's rotate the flywheel here and see what we get for cylinder number 1 exhaust. So I was going to be happy with 472, which was around, 478, which was around 96% of my overall lift profile. Now these are a slightly different dimension. I had wanted 272.53 millimeter push rods. And what I ended up getting was a 10.7 inch. And when you kind of do the math there, it's not quite the length that I was looking for. It's a little shorter, but I'm still getting 474 on the lift, so that's pretty decent. So just consulting Google there, I'm still above 95%, I'm at 96% of lift, because I'm hunting 490 on exhaust. So that's pretty good. Everyone says if you're within 5%, you're in good shape. So that is cylinder number 1 exhaust. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for intake. On cylinder number 1, we got it zeroed out. We're hunting for 507. Let's see what we get. Oh, happy day. Well, that worked out in my favor. The slightly differently dimensioned push rod for intake actually gave me more than what I had thought I was going to get. I was using a 272.75 millimeter push rod on my measurements. I was getting 460 on lift pretty consistently. I never really spiked above 470, 480, honestly, on intake here for number 1. And going with the Manleys, the 10.7 inchers, I'm getting 496, which is freaking awesome. That is 97% of 507, which is what I'm hunting for, of lift for intake. So, boy, this motor is going to breathe pretty good. It's going to have, a little over 95% of what the cam calls for on exhaust, and 97%, on intake. So it'll be breathing pretty well. So I always had a nagging feeling when I installed the Dizzy way back when that I had installed it 180 degrees in the wrong direction. And I figured before I went any farther, now that I've gotten the valves adjusted and I checked my lift, I figured I'd check top dead center on number 1 and see if the way I labeled my Dizzy was actually correct, and I don't think it is. So let me show you. Let me try not to drop this phone and break it, but let me see if I can do this. So obviously I have a bore scope in the cylinder here, and this is, see that? Those are the 2 valve pockets. So that's the top of my cylinder. So right now the cylinder is at top dead center, and you can't really see the valves right there at the bottom, right? 1 and 2. Those are my valves, and they are closed. Both intake and exhaust valves are closed. So this is the top dead center of the power stroke. So we are going to need to make sure that the Dizzy is pointing to the number 1 lead at this point in time, because you're going to want to send a spark to the spark plug naturally, right? And it looks like I do in fact have it 180 degrees in the wrong direction. So here is my rotor, and I'm going to grab the cap right now and show you as a test fit. But I had marked right there as the place for the number 1 cylinder power stroke to be at, and I'm literally 180 degrees the wrong way. So let me go get the distributor cap and show you which the leads are which, and then we'll know for sure if I've done this incorrectly. If I have, I mean, not that big of a deal. I just have to take this out and reclock it and kind of put it back in.
So I took the Dizzy out and reclocked it.
Yep. We're gonna just drop a little bit of oil in here before we seal it all up.
Step 3. Installing the oil and cooling systems.
I don't know if this is because it's a aftermarket part and it's not exactly fit correctly, but I actually have to take this, around this much material off in order for it to sit in here. The only way to do this was to create that clearance. I probably could have gotten away with creating the clearance on the leading edge and not notching the trailing edge, but, well, I did it.
And there you have it, the stock oil cooler's in there. What I've been doing little by little in my downtime is cleaning and painting the engine tins. As you can see, they were super grimy. Once I had my engine tins all painted, I installed a new alternator wire and slapped the fan housing together.
Okay, I didn't film all of the installation of the alternator or putting the flaps in, but yeah, I got them all in, and the fan shroud is ready to go. Fresh, thank you 914rubber.com, a fresh alternator wire put in the back there. That old, burnt out, disgusting, greasy, fried one is over. Guys, I was not going to use this new style of thermostat, and the reason was because I thought my bellows thermostat was all good, but as it turns out, it has failed in the open position, as you can see. So even though I kind of put it on my vise and I hit it with the heat gun and I saw it go up and down and I really thought it was all good, it's not. So I was able to modify, I kind of had this bracket lying around, I don't know, it's from a part from the motor that I'm not using. So I just poked a hole in it, and it's obviously not, snugged in, but I put it on the case, and I think it'll be fine, just sort of in that position. It's not going to get a ton of tension on this, so I think it'll be fine. And then I just sort of poked a hole in a washer, and I put that washer on the tip, and that's where the wire sits. I'm just using the stock wire. So the good news is I did not have to, ruin the stock thermostat bracket. I just didn't really want to start cutting that up. So it's just a piece of scrap there. And I'm about to go and put this all together. So the big test today is going to be, can I hit it with a heat gun and watch these flaps go up and down?
And the answer is yes, they do work. As you can see, they go up and down. I have some adjustments to make, but otherwise all good. Step 4. Preparing the motor for its first start.
Okay, this project is going to take a hard turn into Bob Vila land here, and I'm going to start woodworking, I think. See that? Totally not secure. This whole thing rocks because I had to space it. Anyway, I can't flip this anymore. I don't trust it. It's too heavy. It's too jittery. And I have a lot of stuff I have to do. I need to fit this tin on so that I could clearance. I need to create different holes because the spark plugs, instead of coming straight down, they kind of come out. All that stuff, I want to do that once. So I try to put this on, as you can see here, and the yoke is in the way. So you get this on, and right there, the yoke and everything interfering. I can't even get this on to test it to see where my spark plug holes need to even be. Okay, so this has to come off the yoke in order for me to reposition my spark plug holes for the new heads before I can even put these tins on and continue working. Okay, so this has to come off the yoke. Now, do we put it on a random cart or something? Or do we put it on the test stand that it's going to be on when I do when I start the motor and I run it out of the car and I run it on the test stand? All right, sit rep. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was saying that these stub pipes, it matters which one they're numbered. You just can't put the number 1 stub pipe somewhere else. So anyway, I wanted to verify that I put the stub pipes in the correct location, and I also wanted to make sure I put them in with the correct orientation. All right, so now that I have the exhaust put in a way that I feel is correct, I mean, it's obviously not snug down. I still have an issue with the stub pipes. But now that I've done this, I could think about how I'm going to build my cradle. Once again, obviously the engine is flipped over, so everything you're seeing is should be reversed. But starter's going to mount here with the Zalex mounting bracket. Because I thought I was going to start it while it was on this stand, I had mounted my yoke on this side. The yoke is preventing the installation of the engine tin on this side because the side's cylinders are closer to the flywheel. So that's interfering. So this yoke's got to go. So in order for me to take that yoke off, I pretty much need to put it on whatever engine stand I'm going to use to start the motor, to get it broken in. Like I said, I wanted to do it outside the car. So I have a clear mounting point for some wood on my engine bar, the motor mounts. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to need something in the back to stabilize it with. So just looking at this, is there a way for me to kind of put a piece of wood here somehow that, while it wouldn't be tied to the engine, could it support its weight? All right, if I'm doing the sort of rest it on the surface of a table method, with the bar here being secured, I drilled 2 holes for the motor mounts, but this guy in the back being loose, just sort of, I'll shim it in there, and hopefully the weight of the motor will keep it in place.
So I set about woodworking. I made some legs and put together a rudimentary cart for it to sit on. And by the next check-in, we'll be going through our startup procedure. Up next on Uncle Sal's Garage, starting up our motor for the first time.